friend. Won't let me be. Oh, even when 10,000 folks set themselves against I, and fools said that my chances are slim. All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you all tonight. My name is Lester Barron, and I'm coming to you live here from just outside Los Angeles, California. And I'm the Public Relations Officer with the Dominica Livestock Cooperative. And tonight we are extremely honored to have our very special guest, Dr. Ann Peischel, on the line with us. And I am so honored that Dr. Ann has said yes to be with us. She is a friend of Dominica, and she is has a kind heart, and she's a legend in the industry. And I am so grateful that she's taken the time to invest in us tonight with the Dominica Livestock Cooperative 2025 educational series, kicking off a fantastic year of learning and growth and developing an industry together. And before I bring her up, I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Ann. You know, she was the most influential person many, many decades ago and was the first person to bring this breed of goat called Kiko goats over to the United States of America. In the entire US, she was the first. So on a national level, international level, she has supplied goats and goat semen internationally to many places in the world. On a personal level, Dr. Ann is a friend of the Dominica Livestock Cooperative. She hosted us graciously at her farm just this last October. And here she is tonight again, giving up her time. She's so selfless. One of the things that stands out to Dr. Ann about me, to me about Dr. Ann, is, the other day, it was one of her dear friends' um, final wishes to spend some time with her, watching her perform live kidding. And Dr. Ann took the time and took her phone and showed her how to give birth to baby goats on her pasture. Dr. Ann, it speaks volumes of who you are. And I want to thank you because on a Dominica level, you have blessed us even already. You have donated equipment and materials to us, and we can't say thank you enough for all that you've already began to invest into us. And we are honored to have you here tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you please give me a round of applause and a warm welcome to our guest speaker tonight, Dr. Ann Peischel. Dr. Ann, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much. And I'm very honored to be part of the Dominica Livestock Cooperative. I am an islander at heart. Lester forgot to tell you that. I lived in Hawaii for many, many years. And so I am an islander, actually.
Wow. Well, Dr. Ann, thank you for being on and thank you for investing the time. And this will be recorded. And so thank you for allowing us to do all this education together.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's talk about, Doc, where it began, your upbringing, where it all started with you. So you grew up, tell us where you're from originally, and then we can take the story from there.
Originally, I'm from Pennsylvania, here in the States. I grew up on a farm. We had beef cattle and swine. We had a huge 2,000 brood sow operation and about 500 beef cattle in our feedlot. We farmed 500 acres of hay and barley and rye, wheat, alfalfa, timothy, a lot of different crops, corn, made silage. So I was very fortunate to have grown up on a farm, and my dad was a butcher. And so I learned to eat a lot of the different meats, like tongue. And I always laugh when I have to think about eating tongue as a kid. But we ate stuffed hearts. So I got an opportunity to learn how to slaughter processed meats. And it's a background that just keeps on shining through as I go through my meat goat operation. The other part of my background is I went to Penn State University, and I usually don't say this too loud. I have a degree in agribusiness and economics, which when I realized you had to sit behind a desk and possibly be quiet, I wanted to be out in the field. And so from Penn State, I went to Brazil, and I did some research down there did my master's there, and I did it in poultry. Um, Now I raise peacocks. And then I came back to the States and I did my doctorate at Kansas State University um, with beef cattle, cow calf operation out on the range. From there, I moved to Alaska. I'm always looking for an adventure, and that just sounded like my next adventure. And I ran a beef cattle research center there for the University of Alaska. And I also had the opportunity to work with some of the politicians and get monies for livestock research um, with the lieutenant governor there. I got a phone call one day in the middle of winter, and they asked if I wanted to come to Hawaii and teach. I said, of course. The snow gets pretty deep there. And so I moved to the Hawaiian Islands. I moved to the big island of Hawaii, and I taught 9 different courses at the university, and then moved onto a big cattle ranch and ended up starting to do goat research with goats. And Lester asked me how I ever got interested in goats. Well, it started with a border collie. He needed a project. And so I got goats and started my own group. And I ended up with 1,500 does and on a large ranch, did a lot of land cleaning there. And then I wanted another challenge. And there were a lot of old lava fields there, totally decimated. And my goal was to bring back vegetation with goats on these old lava fields. And it only took about 10 or 12 years to accomplish that goal, but it was great to know that you can take decimated lands and bring them back into production with goats under intense management. Took a lot of time. Sometimes you want to give up, but patience and perseverance, you never give up. And then one day I was sitting at a friend's house. I didn't have a TV in Hawaii, and we had lost some of our population that ate goat meat. And so when you have 3,000 kids to sell and you lose your consumers, you start looking for other projects. And so I was watching this program on TV and I saw all this smoke coming out of California. And I said to myself, you know what? I can eat that. And so I moved to California, worked up in the Sierra Nevadas on a huge tree plantation, taking out all the lower understory so that they didn't lose their ponderosa pine plantations. Did that for quite a while. Also, at the same time, started working on rangelands, eating all decimated plants. Most of them were like yellow star thistle. The goats loved it, and a lot of the other weedy vegetation that the cattle wouldn't eat. Then I decided that it was time to look at the stream banks where they had used the force water to look for gold. And they totally destroyed some of the streams. And so I thought, okay, what were they like before? So I went back into the library and I looked at some of these places and I started doing stream bank restoration. And it took 7 years to bring the water back naturally. Did a lot of the look at the old plants to stabilize those stream banks. And I always say thank you to my goats. They've created all different kinds of opportunities for me. And I also look at my livestock guardian dogs that protected them from bear and mountain lion, bobcats, coyotes, now red wolves. So I'm been very happy with my dogs.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Dr. Ann, I mean, I'm sitting here and I am in awe. I'm in awe of, all of your experience and your knowledge and like all of the, the vast, education you have and, and what you've done in the past. And thank you for being here because this is you are the person that we want to connect with because we are building this industry from scratch and there's a lot that we don't know, right? They say you don't know what you don't know until you know. And so you're bringing up all these areas that we want to develop, but you've done all this work. So I'm excited to have you here. So let's talk about like why specifically Kiko goats first? Like why did you decide that's the breed that I want? That's the direction I want to go. And tell us about that process as we work to build the industry in Dominica. Tell us, being from an island as well in Hawaii, where you lived for a long time, tell us what that was like, to go from getting Kiko goats imported to the island.
That was a big chore. Um, well, the goats I started out with were, it was a really nice mob of Spanish meat goats, but they didn't have really nice udders. They singled. And if I'm looking at how am I going to make a living? So I know I had to have twins. I had to have really good mums, not just mums that walked away from their kids. I didn't want to raise kids. I do if I have bad mums, but I don't have bad mums anymore. My genetic selection has taken all that out. So I was out sitting in the lava field one day eating a bunch of guavas and just looking at the does. And I said, man, I really need better genetics. So I had a really good friend come and visit with his wife and his kids. And he told me, well, you need some boar goats. And I said, okay. And he's from New Zealand. So he invited me down to New Zealand, and to pay for my trip, I helped his brother milk cows. He had like 400 dairy cows in a big rotunda for a month. And then I stayed with a family that raised the boar goats. We were sitting out in the field one day looking at boar goats, and the gentleman asked me, his name was Ron Cornelius. He asked me, what exactly are you going to do with these boar goats? I said, I'm going to put them out in really rough country on lava, and they've got to make it. They're going to be eating all kinds of vegetation, guava, silk oak, all these different plants. And he looked me straight in the eye and he taps me on the shoulder and he said, don't do it. He said, I'm going to send you to Garrick Batten in the South Island of New Zealand, and you go look at the Kikos. And I said, okay, boy, another trip, right? So I got on the barge and I just took the barge across the little inlet there, and Garrick met me. And this is the winter. I decided to go in the winter because that is the worst time to look at livestock. But if they're going to be tough and they're going to make it in Hawaii, then they're going to be okay on the South Island of New Zealand in the winter. So I spent the day with Garrick and his wife, and the next day he said, okay, I'm going to take you out to see the goats. And I went, oh, great. He said, here's a dry as a bone raincoat. You wear this. And it's raining. And he parks at the bottom of this big hill. And he said, you see the top of that hill? I said, yeah. He said, well, you start at the bottom and you walk to the top, and that's where they're at. He said, it'll take you about 3 hours to get there. I said, oh, this is just dandy. So I started hiking, and just about 2.5 hours in, I started just seeing plants moving back and forth. And it wasn't wind, it was the goats. And they were out there just busting this vegetation, and it's called gorse. It's a very toxic vegetation, but they're eating the leaves and they're barking it. So the toxic part is the flower. And we have that problem in Hawaii with some of our vegetation, like castor beans. They'll eat the leaves, but they won't eat the beans. So I was very happy. So I get to the top of this hill, and there's all these little kids out there. And they're just wandering around eating brush. They weren't even paying any attention to me. So I just spent time up there, and he told me when to head back. And I had picked out a few that I really liked, these little kids. They were out there, and this is what I was looking for. I was looking for strong legs, big feet, so that when they stepped down, their toes were wide open. That prevents foot rot. And they were really aggressive in their browsing. They were just going for it. They didn't care that it was raining and it was cold. They were out there. Their moms came back to check in on them, give them a little snack, and then the mums left. So I hiked back down and I told Garrick, I think I want 4 of those little bucklings. And he said, did you pick them out? I said, yes. I told him who I picked. And he looked at me and he said, they're my best ones. I said, you said I could have who I wanted. And when I left, 2 or 3 weeks later, I visited his dome mob and we visited some other goat ranchers, farmers, and we did a big walkabout on some big properties just looking at goats. But I kept coming back to the Kikos. And so when I brought the bucks into Hawaii, it didn't cost me much to buy them. It cost me a lot of money to get them on a barge from the South Island to the North Island. Then I had to lease space in Air New Zealand after we went through all the health requirements, which they kept stacking on more and more, but we made it through and we got them on the plane. It took about a week to get all the health stuff done, go through customs, got them on the plane. They landed on the tarmac. You have to land them on the international tarmac in Honolulu. And I was met there by a stock trailer that had to be certified to be able to come out on the international tarmac. Then they had to go into quarantine for a month. And when I went up with them into quarantine, and the veterinarian on call, very nice gentleman, did sheep, all other kinds of animals, didn't do much with goats. So I said, okay, I'll balance all the rations for you. We'll talk about how to take care of these animals. And then when it's time for them to go, I'll come back the day before, get them back down to the pier. So now we're getting them on the barge. So we had to barge them from Honolulu quarantine. We barged them to the big island. And I met my friends, met me there with a truck and trailer. And we got these 4 bucks on the truck and trailer and took them to the ranch.
Wow.
That
Dr.
was
Ann, I'm gonna pause you there because what I'm hearing is that what we're doing in Dominica and what we're working to do in Dominica will take some effort. That's what
oh
I'm hearing.
yes, it takes a lot of effort. You really have to be organized. You have to have all your people that you're working with in a row, and you have to make sure that you are the nicest person in the whole world to keep everything going smooth.
Well, so Doc, let me ask you this question. Like, why do you think it was worth it? Or why do you think it is worth it for us to go through all this travail, so to speak, to build this industry? Why do you think it's worth it to get let's talk Kiko goats. Why is it worth it to get into Kiko goats or goats in general or livestock in general?
Well, for me, the Kikos, besides being aggressive browsers, they really they gain a lot of weight. They on your wean offs, you can gain weight on native vegetation. But you have to be a good vegetation manager. You can't just put them out there and hope for the best. You have to know your plants. You have to know when they're at the highest quality. You have to know your soil types so you know what your plants are picking up. But the Kikos themselves, they're excellent mothers. They love their kids, and nothing's going to bug their kids. They'll beat one of my livestock guardian dogs on the head to let them know that you are not coming near my kids. They raise their kids. They have beautiful udders. And when you're in vegetation, you want those udders to dry up and get real tight back up into the body so you don't rip up the teats, of which these guys only have 2 teats. Um, their milk, they don't have a lot of milk, but they have very high quality milk. And their colostrum is pretty amazing. It's really thick. It's got a lot of immunoglobulins in it. And those does they'll take those kids all over the farm and get them into really great vegetation. They have a lot of spring rib, which is necessary for eating a lot of vegetation. They got to have a big barrel. In other words, they are also smooth muscled. They're muscling down through the ribs and coming on down the back through the loin. and over the hips. They're nice and smooth. They have a great angle so that they can really stand up and be bipedal. You want them to be able to walk on their hind legs. Um, and so I look for the muscling coming on down into the hock.
Wow.
So if you're going to make money, you have to be able to hang a really good carcass on the rail. And for me, I look at meat as like hot dogs. I'm eating again. And I want my clients to have a really great experience. And rolled and stuffed shoulders, smoked hind legs. There isn't anything you can't do with goat meat.
So true. Thank you, Dr. Ann, for walking us through this. And one of the things that you and I have been talking about privately is the strategy behind how we would be able to support the Dominica farmers to really expand and scale and grow a herd that would be sustainable, right? That's one of the things that we've been talking about. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, so tell us
sustainability.
more about that. Like, tell us about the hardiness, the characteristics of Kikos besides the mothers and the milking. But what else makes the Kiko goat an ideal goat for our climate in Dominica?
That though they're very adapted to the climate. I had them in Hawaii, moved them to the Sierra Nevadas where it snows, and they adapted right in. They're very easy to work with. I've selected them for behavior and temperament. You can work with them as they're kidding. They're not scared of you. Um, they're just a very easy, peaceful goat to work with. But you have to be that person that carries on that genetic trait. And that's where you're going to have to really buckle down and look at the genetic traits and be able to select them from the Kikos that you're going to be using.
That's good stuff, Dr. Ann. So tell us this. So let's talk about what that would look like, because you and I, I spoke with you already that we did a shipment of semen to Dominica. Do you recommend that we do semen, live embryos, or a combination of the three?
I'd probably say live is going to be good because you're going to be able to, really get started on the ground. Semen is super under your situation, but you're going to have to really have a training method, and everybody's going to have to really learn how to AI. And then the other part of AI is not just the person doing doing the AI. You've got to know how those goats were raised and brought on, so that they've got really good nutrition. You've got them estrus synchronized to artificially inseminate them, and then you've got to take really good care of them after you inseminate them, so that the eggs, the embryos are going to stick into the uterine wall. Um, so there's a lot of factors that go into artificial insemination. As you know, when we were doing the artificial insemination, um, and you need somebody that's very calm, because if you get in a rush, artificial insemination doesn't work. Because
Wow.
at the clinic, it was very obvious that some of the folks were rushing and they were turning the cervix inside out, and they couldn't find where they should be going through the cervix. And so once you calmed them down, got them to back up a little bit, and then they went, oh, there it is. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And Doctor, and I want to thank you because I learned so much along with the president of the Dominica Livestock Cooperative, Danny Edmond, as well as one
Mhm.
of our members, Colada
Oh,
Francis.
yeah.
Thank you so much for having us at your farm. And we do have an announcement that you will be holding another clinic this year in 2025. And it's not
Yes.
just one day this time, it's
Two. We're
wow.
going to do, yeah, we're going to do an educational day on the Friday, and then we're going to AI all day Saturday. And I also told Lester, if anybody from Dominica wants to come back to the farm, we'll bring out a few more goats and they can AI on the Sunday, and it'll just be your group from Dominica.
Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Ann, we are so honored and grateful. And that is going to be taking place, everybody, the end of September 2025. So look out, the flyer is going to be available very soon. If you'd love to learn how to do artificial insemination, just as having another skill set on your farm, I would definitely recommend that Dr. Ann's class. I will be going back again just to let you know so I could learn more. So Dr. Ann, thank you for extending that extra day just for Dominica as well,
Yeah,
because
you're more than welcome.
wow, that's so priceless for us. Thank you.
You forgot to tell them we have fun too and we laugh a lot.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Dr. Ann, when you meet her, you will fall in love with her immediately. You know, when I met Dr. Ann, as soon as I walked up, she gave me a Dominica style hug and kiss. And I was like, whoa, I never would have expected that. So thank you for making me feel at home and making me feel like family, Dr. Ann.
Yep, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, so let's talk about a few things. Like I just got a message from one of our members today that said, you know, I got my goat has tapeworms. It's because as we're building this industry, we want to get live goats, we want to get semen, we want to get embryos. We're going to have some parasite challenges because they exist around the world. Tell us a little bit about your experience with tapeworms specifically and some of the things that we can do to mitigate tapeworm challenges on the ground.
Okay, well, first of all, you have to be sure you have tapeworms, but when you see little pieces of like rice in their fecal matter, you know that those are parts of tapeworm. If you're not certain, then we need to do a fecal analysis. And that could be something we could teach on Sunday, is how they can do a fecal analysis on their own farm and they don't have to go to their vet or spend a lot of money to get it done. But you need to know there's several different kinds of tapeworms. Um, but there's one of the problems is grazing too close to the ground. And remember, dogs carry tapeworms, and dogs will eat goat poop, and they get tapeworms, and then they poop tapeworms. So if you're going to de-tapeworm your goats, the drug of choice, I am not a veterinarian. I will tell you that to begin with. I'm just a farmer that figures out what works and what doesn't. You need to use a drug called valbazin, and it's an albendazole. It's a white drug, and it's given orally. And that is one of the few drugs that will get tapeworms. If you're going to de-tapeworm your dog, you can use Safeguard. And that's given 2 days in a row, 5 mLs at a time.
Wow. Thank you,
Um,
Doc, for that wisdom. Let me show you a picture here, Doc, because I want to make sure that we're seeing what we think we're seeing. And do you see something else other than tapeworm here from this photo? It's going to come up in a few seconds here. Just give it a little bit and it'll show up on your screen. How about this? What do you see when you see this worm here? This came
many,
out of goats.
yeah, it's tapeworms. It's
Got it.
they've got bad ones. Is this out of this is out of an older goat?
This is out of a baby goat, maybe 16 weeks or less.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right.
And I bet it has a little pot tummy too, doesn't it?
Yes. We saw some photos and we got some feedback.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to hit them with valbazin. And the life cycle is about 17 days. Um,
Tell us what that means, Doc. How do we treat it over the course of those 17 days?
okay, you're going to treat it once with valbazin, um, and you're going to do about 2.5 times the recommended dose that it says on the bottle. Remember, I'm not a vet; it just works. So you're gonna do that with your valbazin, and then on day 17, I would do a fecal analysis and see if you still had tapeworms, or keep looking at your poops. And if you do, then I would treat them one more time.
Got it. Thank you, Doc, for your wisdom there. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a, you're like, you look at it, you go, ugh, that's a
I know
tapeworm.
I was going, ooh, and I can tell you, I will tell you a secret. Don't
Yeah.
ever feed me spaghetti.
Oh boy. You have,
Never.
well, I know what you like, Dr. Ann, and it's grouper with green papaya salad.
Yes.
Okay. So Dominica, that's grouper or tash and green pawpaw salad. That is what Dr. Ann eats. Okay.
Yep.
So when she comes down and she will come visit the farm, we would love to make sure we spoil Dr. Ann. So hey everybody, Dr. Ann, I know another thing we talked about together is we talked about at some point, because I know your schedule is so jam-packed, you flying down to Dominica to be able to teach some of these classes on AI and just health in general. What are some of the other things that we as islanders, as you lived on an island, you have the experience, what are some of the things that we ought to be looking out for as well?
Okay, I would look out for my pasture management. And do you use polyportable electric fence and solar units?
Not so
Um,
much. Not many people have access to any of that stuff.
yeah, we'll talk about some of that. I'll bring some with me. Um, so we need to look at being able to move the goats around instead of just, putting them in one place. And we don't want to tie them out. That's one of the worst things you can do is, tie your goats out. Um, because they get all tangled up, they choke themselves. Um, and it doesn't give them the freedom. They have to have the freedom to select the vegetation that they like. If there's some vegetation that you don't have on a farm, but another farm does, we can talk about how we go and we collect seeds and let the goats scatter them around. We'll do some soils. We need to look at your soil maps. Um, and just general health. Are you vaccinating your kids for the clostridial diseases? Do you vaccinate your does before they're going to kid with CD and tetanus? Um, what about the health of your dogs? Are you taking, really good care of your dogs? You keeping your dogs vaccinated? Um, Geez,
Wow.
there's a
Doc,
million
let,
things.
let,
And what
let's
about
go.
record keeping?
Yeah, let's go there. So there's two things that you just brought up. Number one, let's talk about dogs. And when you say dogs, you're specifically talking about livestock guardian dogs, right? Which
Yes.
which I've seen people say, well, I want to use a Malinois for that, or I want to use a Rottweiler for that, or I want to use a Doberman for that. What is your recommended breed? Because from my understand, I haven't seen a livestock guardian dog in Dominica yet. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you wrote a book on it.
Yeah, I did. Um, well, I have three choices, but there are other dogs. My first choice is going to be because of remember we're talking about an island here. So we're going to do short-haired dogs. We're going to do the Akbash. And then as you're looking at the Akbash, you can also look at the Anatolian. They're Turkish dogs. And I like the Kangal. Also, they're a totally different kind of dog. They're once you learn how to work with them and they really like you, they they're kind of killing machines. If anything comes near their goats, it's dead. And that's why I like them for where I am because of bear. We have some mountain lions, red wolves, and bobcats. And so nothing gets in my pastures. Um, we run them as a team. The Anatolians and the Akbash work as a team. The Kangals work as three. So if you really have a problem, and it's a big problem, then we're going to run some Kangals. The Great Pyrenean is a great dog. It's just got too much fiber, and you're going to have to shear them because you got to keep them cool. If you don't keep them cool, they're going to go find a place to stay cool. And then you're going to wonder why something happened in your pasture when you have a dog, but it is because of you, because you didn't take the time to shear your dog. The Maramas are the same way. They're great dogs, as are might just slip my mind, but you have to shear them to keep them. The Commodores, they're great dogs too, and they're great around water, but you got to shear them. And so we can teach people how to shear dogs too.
Yeah, Doc, and we do have a major challenge in Dominica right now, major, with respect to wild dogs that have been since the last hurricane many years ago. Start like we're basically the owners were not able to keep them housed or contained during the hurricane. And then they went into the forest and they started mating in the forest. And we have now generations of dogs destroying animals in Dominica. So one of the things that you and I talked about was having short-haired, pick the ones that are short-haired, and then let's start with those, let's train them up and let's get them to Dominica. And that's something that the Dominica Livestock Cooperative is going to be doing, is supporting farmers with importing these specific dogs trained to be guardians on their farms so that they could see what real protection of livestock looks like, right?
Oh
So
yeah, the dogs will, if they're brought up right as little pups, they will stick like glue to their wards. They will protect them.
yeah,
And you got to run two, because what happens if you just have a dog and you have predator dogs come in, what happens if your goats split into two different groups? Who is the dog going to protect? It can't go from one group to the other group. And if you have more than one dog coming in, you're in trouble. So these dogs will team up and they'll just stretch these wild dogs straight out.
yeah. Well, I look forward to us being able to do some more education around dogs specifically. Maybe we'll book another call later on in the year, Doc, to talk about dogs and how they're trained and how they're raised and the mindset that these dogs have, because this is not like your fluffy pet that
No,
you bring into the house and you treat these a little bit differently, right?
these are not your dogs.
Right.
These are the goat's dogs.
Yeah.
And you have to respect that.
Yeah. So good. Well, let me share with you everyone real quick. So our website is dominicalivestock.com, and here we are featuring Dr. Ann here on the site to say thank you for all of the generosity, Dr. Ann, that you've shown to us, and and her website, if you want to reach Dr. Ann, is goatsunlimitedkikos.com, goatsunlimitedkikos.com, and her email is goatsunlimited@gmail.com. So thank you, Dr. Ann, for your generosity. Thank you for all that you've done already to support us. And I'm excited for all the things that will come soon in the near future with some of the plans we have behind the scenes. I also want to thank you, Dr. Ann, because the other day, one of our members had a serious situation with one of their babies, their kids in Dominica. And you, over the phone, you literally walked our member through what she ought to be doing, and the next day, she said, bam, problem solved. So
Oh,
I want to thank you for that.
okay.
I
Yeah,
want to
they need
thank you
they
for that.
need to call me back when whether they have a success or a failure. I want to know.
You got it.
And you told them that they can call me anytime.
Yes, yes. And so that's one of the benefits of the Dominic being a member of the Dominica Livestock Cooperative is not everybody gets access to Dr. Ann. This is exclusive access that if you have an animal and the animal's dying, or you're like something's going, my animal's sick, we call Dr. Ann on the spot and she goes, hey, this is what it might be. Try these things. And we've had success so far. So thank you, Dr. Ann, for being our international correspondent on goat health.
You're welcome. Well, you stretch my brain because I have to think of different ways to do it because you don't have some of the drugs that we have here. So we have to
That's right.
fabricate our own drugs, our own timelines, and we make it through.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that we're looking to change, Doc, is we want to be able to have an abundance of resources in Dominica so that when somebody says, my goat is doing this, or my sheep is doing that, or my cow is doing that, or my pig is doing something, then you go, oh yeah, we have the remedy. Here it is. And that's what we look forward to building together, is having the DLC cooperative be that hub that everybody can go to for information and resources and support, and that the community feels safe and really supported by the collective work. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead, Doc.
Remember, I told you you needed to start your little black book,
I did.
like the lady that we worked with. She should have written all the symptoms down and everything that I told her about, so that if somebody else has that problem, all she has to do is go to that little black book and say, "Hey, this is what we did."
Yeah, that is
So
awesome.
we can
Wh-
start our own little Dominica handyman book.
I would love that. And I'm gonna pull up a book in a second, but I first want to switch gears and I want to jump to the website before we open up to our members for questions in about
Okay.
13 minutes. So, Doc, let's talk about what someone ought to be looking for when they're looking at Kiko goats specifically, right? And by the way, I didn't tell everybody that this is my secret, but my secret is that my primary breed of interest getting into Dominica is Kiko's. And from Dr. Ann's herd, and here's why. She's had a closed herd since 1994, which means no other animals have come out from another place to contaminate any of her genetics since 1994. That's a lot. That's 31 years, everybody, right? So I just want to tell you that's the reason why I'm excited, but also because of all the things that Dr. Ann talked about regarding those goats already. So, Dr. Ann, where would you like me to go on the website? I can actually give you remote control. And if you want to, you can guide us in the site here, and you can just click on whatever pictures. If you want me to look at the bucks or the does, just take over my screen here and show us a little bit about what we can be looking for when it comes to goats from your farm specifically.
Okay, like I told Stephen, I raise goats, you raise the website. So,
All right, let's look at your bucks first. How about that? How about we
okay,
start
we'll
there?
look at her or whatever someone wants to look at.
Yeah, let's start here, Dr. Ann. So tell us, why do you choose some of these bucks here?
Okay, this buck he's an old boy. He's from yeah, he's a no, he's not a 14. He's an '04 buck. And so I've used him a lot. He's got really strong legs. If you look down through his hind legs, he's got muscling down into the hocks. He's got a really nice top line. Look at that thick neck. I mean, that guy, and he can stand on those hind legs. He's really aggressive. I sell my necks for $22 a piece when I slaughter. He's very easy to handle. You notice he's in a 3-strand portable polywire electric fence. It's kept at 8 kilovolts. He's got a really nice angle from his hip down to his pin, his kind of near his butthole. And that's really important in the females because it's the angle of the pelvic cradle. And we've got to have a specific angle in that pelvic cradle to get those little twins out. And so you're going to pick bucks that have that specific angle. And from the top behind from his withers down to his point of his elbow there in the front, he goes another 2 inches below. So he's got a really nice big barrel, and we can really get a lot of vegetation stuffed in there. And you look at the vegetation they're on, it's not really that great. But he does really good, and he throws excellent kids.
Nice. I love that. Let's look at another one, Dr. Ann. What do you see in this guy?
He's a lot of the same thing. He's got that muscling. He's a little steeper angled. I did use him quite a bit on specific does. I want all my does to look exactly the same. And so when I start picking out bucks, I try and find maybe a weak point on a doe that I need to encourage, and then I'll select the specific buck. The only thing I criticized this buck for was his angle from his hip to his pin, but I put him on, yeah, right, thank you. I put him on some does that were straighter, and he kind of lifted that angle to about 7 degrees, and that's right where I wanted it to be.
Nice. All right. How about this guy? And we'll look at some does.
Oh, this guy. Is that a kid with him or a puppy?
Pup. It's a puppy.
Oh, it's a puppy. Okay. Yeah, I put my pups go with my bucks because if they're naughty, you'll see a little puppy go airborne because the pups let them know that you do not, under any circumstance, mess with the does.
Wow.
I had this buck right here for a long time. He throws really nice kids also, and you can see
Nice.
he is pretty wide, and he's got that dense, is really thick in the neck. The other thing I like them to have a little shorter muzzle, but when they open their mouth and their whole face disappears, they can inhale vegetation. They can get a lot in there.
You know, Dr. Ann, and that's something that we're looking to do in Dominica because we're all about goat meat down there, right? So we're
Yes.
working to improve the carcass size of our animals where we use our local goats, our Creole goats, or what we call our gatewas, in Dominica. That's our local term for it. And we cross these bucks with our local goats, and that will improve the size of our goats that we get for market.
Yeah, and then you have to know how to take care of those carcasses too.
Right. Would you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Um, I looked at a carcass you had hanging, and I told you have to shroud it in muslin, and not just one wrap, but three wraps, and then
Mhm.
you pat it down with tepid water. That way you retain all the moisture in that muscling, and you get no shrinkage. And
Wow.
that's real important when you're going to start roasting or cooking your meat. You
Yeah,
want
good
that
stuff.
that shrouding to be
Yeah.
there.
Well, look at one last buck, then we'll go to the does. Tell us about this guy. I mean, this guy is massive.
Yeah, and he's not that old when that
Wow.
picture was taken. He's only he's 2.5 or 3 years old there,
Wow.
and he's he's massive. But look at the angle on his hip to his pin, his neck. But see, go to the point of his elbow, his front leg to the elbow. Look how that comes. No, that's his knee. Come back up right there. That's his elbow. Look how far deep, look how deep he is from that elbow down for his heart girth. We want really nice heart girths. And he stretch, I use him to stretch out. If I have if I have a doe that's a little short in the back, needs a little more length, or she needs a little more length to her loin. Because now remember, we're eating all this meat. I'll put a buck on them that has a lot of stretch. The other thing with the stretch is from the front shoulder to the back, you want at least 29 to 30 inches because we can get more of the ribeye muscle through there. And that'll
Mhm.
give us more meat on our chops if you want to do
Amazing.
chops.
Amazing. Thank you, man. Dr. Ann, I could be here all day. Let's look at some of the does and then we'll go over it. We'll open up for questions. Which one would you like me to start with on this page?
Um, Probably the one that says maternal.
This one here?
Yeah. Look at
Great.
how wide she is across the back.
Yeah.
From the hip to the hip. You want them really wide because now we're talking about pelvic cradles. And you want to put, she's got a nice, even though it looks like she's a little steep, she actually has a nice angle to her pelvic cradle. So you could have used either the black buck or the other buck 4508 on her. But look at how wide she is across the chest. And that width across the chest is going to give us width across the withers. I like my does to be flat across the wither. Dairy goats are more pointed, but I want mine to be flat because I want to really put that longissimus dorsi muscle, that ribeye through there. Um, you can probably tell I'm into eating meat. Um, Before I got alpha gal from a tick, I would eat probably 4 or 5 of my own goats a year. These are some really young dolings. Um, so I like to grow them out. I grow my own dolings out. I don't breed them until they're 16 to 18 months old. And that's when I'll do my last culling. Um, we're gonna look at her hips, a nice top line, point of her elbow. She's got a lot of depth under there. So we want to grow them out and see where they're gonna go, to where they're gonna take us.
Yeah. Wow, Doc. I mean, and the thing that people want to know is Kikos are really not uniform goats. There's not like one color they come in, right, Doc? They could
No,
come in all of these different colors and
they can be all different colors.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
My older semen that's in my tanks that we talked about is from a lot of white goats because that's where they, originally started. But I did have an original black buck.
wow, amazing. And so, Doc, you were telling me that a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the bucks, but a lot of the traits that you keep speaking of are coming from the does. Tell us why that happens. Like, why are a lot of the dominant traits coming from the mums?
Well, for me, it's because I've selected them so hard. And then as they have their bucklings, and I look at what I have a vision when I look at a doe. I want to know exactly what she's going to look like because I know what I have to have for her to have twins. I know what her udder has to look like. And so I start picking those characteristic traits out. Like this little goat down here eating a bush under disposition, she's still in my group. She'll always be there. Um, she's aggressive. She's eating her bushes. She's wide. Um, and she's only at this picture, she's not even 8 months old yet. So she still has almost a year to go before I would ever pick her to go back into the mob. But I have specific traits I want the mums to carry. And the other reason I do that is when I hang those carcasses on the rail, for me, when I sell meat, they all have to hang on the rail and look the same. When you have a buyer that's buying off the rail, they don't want any more than maybe 2 pounds of difference in any of those carcasses. If they're 75-pound carcasses, they have to be 75-pound carcasses.
That's
And
good.
so,
So
and you
yeah,
have to
so
know how much bone you have.
right. Yeah, because right now, I mean, I'm talking about with one of our vice president, actually, Mr. Colonel Mills, about just having something as simple as a bandsaw to create equal cuts, right, for the meats that we're looking to bring to market, and how much of a difference it makes when you're using a professional bandsaw versus a machete, right? There is a difference. And so, yeah, thank you for the education there. Let's,
Machetes are for bananas,
yeah, no kidding. Not for goat meat, right?
not for goat meat. No, you have everything. You get a little better. You can raise your price a little bit if your meat is very appealing and it all
Mhm.
looks the same.
Yeah, this is a beautiful doe, the one that you were talking about earlier. I figured out how to get her up on the screen by
Yeah, see
itself.
how
So,
deep she is in this in her spring of rib?
yep, we sure do.
Yeah.
All of this area, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. Any other one you'd like to talk about before we go to questions this evening?
No, we'll go to questions. We can go to questions.
Awesome. Dr. Ann, I'm excited because, like this is probably the hardiest breed that we could have on the island. Now, here's one more thing we didn't talk about. When was the last time you dewormed a goat on your farm?
1994.
So if you can imagine, everybody, Dr. Ann has not dewormed a goat since 1994. So, Doc, how is it possible that you're not losing any of your animals to worms?
Pasture management.
Okay, and what does that look like? What does that look like for us in Dominica?
Well, I never go into vegetation that isn't any taller than if I'm doing a pasture, it's got to be 8 inches tall, and I come out at 5 inches. If I'm in the brush, I really watch them and they're picking the leaves off the brush. As soon as they start looking down at the ground, they're out of there. They're onto new brush. And I'm going to send you some pictures for the website that I took of brush that I went in. I was standing on my four-wheeler taking a picture and I couldn't even look over the four-wheeler. It was so tall. And I raise bushes and that's what I want. Everybody that comes to my farm looks at it and goes, "This is ugly." And I just smile because that's exactly what I want. I want bushes for my goats. The other neat thing about the bushes is they bring up different chemicals, nutrients from the soil. They can bring up biotin and they can bring up a whole lot of other elements from the soil. And so when we balance out our mineral mix, which you've got to use a mineral mix. When we balance out the mineral mix from the soil analysis and the vegetation analysis, the one I manufactured for myself is a little different than what is used on pasture. Mine is used on brush because my vegetation is different and it brings up different elements. It's the same way if they're eating tree leaves. Think about how deep those tree roots are and what the trees are bringing up. And we also want to encourage dung beetles. We want a lot of worms. I hate worms, but I really want a lot of worms. Um, we just want a lot of mycorrhizobia. We want our roots to be really healthy. A lot
Yeah,
of roots.
And that's the thing, Doc. A lot of farmers, they especially when they tie up their goats now, and they have them on a rope and they start eating down to the ground. That's a situation, right? And it's not so good.
That's a bad situation.
Yeah,
That's
we're
why I
gonna talk.
mentioned tying out
we're-
is not good.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about record keeping for goats on our next call. Not today, but the next call that we have next Saturday. But Doc, the Ministry of Agriculture in Dominica has put together this record keeping manual for our farmers. And so I just want to let our farmers know that everybody who's a member of our cooperative will receive in the next few months from me, not from the cooperative, from me. I'm going to do printed copies of this for our members so that they can keep record of the pregnancy, the due dates for the babies, right? All of that stuff, So that, and if we look here, stuff of inventory. When was the breeding, right? When did breeding take place? What was the ID of the animal you bred to? Which talks about ear tags. So we're going to talk about record keeping and
Yep.
inventory the next time we're together. But Doc, I just wanted to let you know that we are on it, and we're going to be providing our members with this value so that they could really be on top of their records as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things you need to look at there is body condition scoring.
Great. Yeah, we'll make sure that we include that as well.
Did I send you a paper? I think I sent you a paper on body condition scoring, didn't I?
Yeah, I believe you did.
Yeah, if I didn't, let me know and
Yes.
I'll resend it to you.
I believe you gave us some of the laminated sheets. Was that correct?
Yeah, I did.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for your generosity. I know
Yeah.
that some of the members in Dominica already have those sheets. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And I also have a written article and I also have one of the skeletons so that, they can look at the bones and everything.
Great, great. Doc, I'm gonna open up the floor for questions from our members now. I'm gonna ask our vice president. He's just coming back from the brush, Mr. Colonel Mills, to moderate some of these questions, as well as Dylan Williams, or Magdalene Kofi, or Vernon Joseph, or Tasha Bruman. But if anybody has a question, now's the time to open up the floor. Dr. Ann and I could be here for a long time
Yeah.
speaking on goats and all the aspects of goats. But does anybody, one of our members, have a question now? And yes, you have to be a paid DLC member to get access to this exclusive Q&A session today.
And don't be afraid to ask a question. I take anything.
Oh,
And
let me give them the ability to unmute, Doc. I apologize. There we go, everybody. Feel free to unmute yourself now, everyone, and you can ask your questions.
Hi,
Okay,
good evening, doctor, and it's Coletta.
Oh, hi, Coletta.
My question is about what's the worm's name? Hold on a second.
It's about what?
A worm. It's called Hubuncus. Or they call it barber pole.
Yeah, Homunculus contortus.
Yes. What is a good way to manage that? Because we had a recent outbreak with that.
Okay, do you do Fomantia? You have your
What-
Fomantia cards?
If I have what?
Fomantia cards. Remember we looked at the eyes at the clinic?
Yeah. Yes, I have those.
Yes, you have to look at the Fomantia cards and see where your goats are. If they're, their eyes are really bright red, a lot of blood vessels coming down in them, or if they're pale white. The management on that is too close to the ground because the Homunculus contortus can crawl up the grass stem 4 or 5 inches. And
Okay.
so if you're eating your vegetation low, then you're just eating all that, the large,
Yeah.
and then you'll have an outbreak about 7 days later.
Is there any medical treatment for that?
Homunculus contortus, you can use ivermectin.
Okay, yeah, that's what we use. So I'm on the right track then.
Okay, but just remember, if you do it too often, you're going to get a resistance to it, and then it will no longer work.
Oh yeah, we hadn't had to deworm in a very long time, so it was a very big shock for us when we had our outbreak.
Yeah, keep
So-
up on your Fomantia. Remember, we looked at the gums
Mm-hmm.
and the teeth And we also turned them around and we looked at their bums to make sure their bums were as pink. The vulva was as pink as their eyes and their gums.
Yes. So I'll do a recheck then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ann, hi. Colonel Mills here. Question. On average Kiko, what normally be the weight
Can you
on
say that
a on a buck?
On a buck, the width? What you want the width on from the hip to the hip?
On a fully grown buck, what normally be the weight? Average.
Oh, weight.
Yeah, weight. Yeah, weight.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My island ears aren't tuned in yet. So you have to forgive me if I keep asking you, what? Yeah, we'll just laugh.
Yeah,
I do,
no
Lester.
problem.
I laugh. He pulls them on me too. On a full-grown Kiko buck, if you're just coming on vegetation, then you're going to be about 200, maybe 210, 20 pounds. If you're feeding them, then they'll get up to 250, 280. If you're feeding them a type of grain, some corn or alfalfa pellets or something like that.
Okay. Nice.
But remember, you're breeding small goats and you can't have all that weight. And remember, when they ejaculate, those front legs squeeze in real hard and it can break the backs of those little goats. So you're going to want to be using younger bucklings.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. When anybody just ask questions. I know you have some.
Good night. I'm looking at getting into goats, but I was considering on a acre and a half. How many goats you recommend I could keep on that land?
How many acres do you have?
1.5 acres.
I wouldn't go any more than 2 goats.
Oh, okay.
Start out with 2. If you've never had goats, you need to learn how to manage them first. Because if you're starting out with 2 does, then you're going to have kids. Now you're going to have 6 goats. And you can get overstocked real fast on a small acreage.
Thank you.
So practice your management, getting them moved around. You can send me pictures of your vegetation. Just send them to my email and I can look at your vegetation for you. Because if you have an acre and a half, is your house on there?
No, the house is on its own half acre. It's actually 2 acres in all, but I'm giving 1.5 acres to the goats.
Okay. Yeah, I'd start out with a smaller number and build up. You don't want internal parasites. You don't want to have clostridial problems. And so start out with a smaller group. You could push it to 3, but I just think of what it costs you to get into it and what it costs to have problems. The only way, yeah, I paid off my farm with my goats, but I was very patient and I never overstocked.
Okay. Good night, Dr. Ann.
Okay.
My question is, how easy it is to do a forage analysis to know?
Okay.
To know how much protein, sorry,
do you have a lab on Dominica that can do that?
I'm not sure.
You have a university, right?
Yes.
Okay, you have to
Well-
have a soils person then. I would
Okay.
call the university and tell them you want to do some vegetation analysis. You're going to cut it about 5 inches from the ground. You're going to come up 5 inches, cut the vegetation, and you're going to dry it. Do not put it in a plastic bag. Dry it in a paper bag and then send it to them and see if they'll analyze it for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions from our members?
Yes, good night. Coulson, Georgia. Question, doctor. Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for giving us some of your time. It's very instructive. I think we're learning a lot.
Oh, you're more
Um,
than welcome.
yeah. Question. So I had this goat kidding. It kidded in the morning. I thought it was done, and then about 3.5 hours later, I saw it was kidding again. But the baby was a stillbirth. I'm just wondering if when I saw her kidding in the morning and I went in, tried to help the first kid get colostrum and stuff, if that would have affected her kid in the second baby.
No, she should have had the second baby within a half an hour. And if she didn't, then you needed to go in with your artificial insemination sleeve. Never go in these goats, just raw handed. Go in, lube up, put your glove on, lube up to your elbow, and go in and check them. You should have never had that much time. You should have gone in right away. Half an hour.
Okay.
You need to go in before the contractions quit and the cervix shuts down.
Mhm. But well, when I saw her at the 4 hours after, she was still having contractions, getting the one she had in out. As a matter of fact, I thought she only had one kid. That's why I didn't check on her too much more. And when I went back to check on her, then I realized she was actually um, expulsing the second one.
Yeah, she was trying to get rid of it along with the fetal membranes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the placenta.
Okay, so that would have just depended on her, not because of my presence or not because of my interaction.
No, not at all.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Vernon, go ahead.
You see a hand go up there?
Good evening. I would like to ask, if peradventure you have kids that probably had parasites, you dealt with them, and you check to see if the kids have like anemia or stuff like that, like through the eye, checking the eye, and you see like you have this really pale color on the eyelid. What would you recommend to boost that kid so it could probably get back like a higher blood count in a short period of time without using conventional methods like injections and stuff like that?
Well, that's going to be pretty hard to bring that anemia back up. You can use there's a product that you can get on the open market. It's called Red Cell. You can get it through Valley Vet Supply. I'm pretty sure they would send it to you. But your best bet is to invest in iron dextran for baby pigs, 200 milligrams, and you give that sub-Q. And when they're little, it depends how old they are. If they're like 2 or 3 weeks old, you can give it, right into the muscle. That's your fastest way to get it up. And you've got to give B vitamins. They have to have B vitamins to make the iron work. They work in conjunction with each other. There's also another product called amino acid complex that you can give them. What are you capable of having drugs shipped, legal drugs shipped into Dominica?
I would think so. If not, then probably we can work with our vets and have them guide us on as to how we can bring them in. But I think we should be able to order them off of certain suppliers.
Yeah, Valley Vet Supply is a good one. You have Omaha Vaccine, Jeffers. There's quite a few different ones, but I would, if you just have little kids that are really going downhill fast, you need something that's really going to crank them up. And I make this product, I call it Go Juice, and it has electrolytes. You've got to have electrolytes get into them. I also have powdered vitamin B12s, fortified vitamins. I add amino acid complex to that, and I drench them. And I also use probiotics. But probiotics, you can get yogurt at the store. You can also use Gatorade. That'll help crank them a little bit, give them that little bit of extra energy. With your Gatorade, you can mix, I don't know if you have molasses. I wouldn't use sugar, maybe some honey. You can mix some honey in with your yogurt and your Gatorade, and that'll spark them a little bit. It's pretty hard when those little guys have anemia. Without
Okay,
extra
thank you for that.
input. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who else has another question for Dr. Ann? This is a prime opportunity to get some wisdom here. Anybody else have any issues with worms or any other challenges with diseases that they're experiencing?
Oh, hey,
Yeah,
Les.
yeah, good evening. Hello.
Yes, go for it.
Switch from worms to internal parasites.
Internal parasites.
Hello.
That's right, Dr. Ann.
Okay,
Yes,
Norman.
Norman, go for it.
Yes, good evening, and thanks everyone. Very interested discussion. Let me tell you, I've been experiencing some issue with some sheep I have. Actually, the vet animal assistants did come and visit, and they administered some medication. Basically, it's mite. It's mite, parasites and so on, mite and so on. They did give the sheep inject an injectable medication 3 times on weekly basis. But what I've observed, I still seeing the sheep having the effect and the symptoms. So I was wondering whether I should continue to contact the vet or what advice can be given.
They have mites.
Yeah, the skin very irritable. It keeps on scratching up the skins and so on. The skin and so on. Well, the animal health assistant said it was mite. I'm not sure.
Okay, there's a drug called Eprenex, and I'm not a vet. It's for horses.
Okay.
And it's you put it down their back, and that gets rid of biting lice and mites and suckering lice. But it's a horse and cow product. Yeah, let me check. It's Epre. Yeah, it's not in the list, but it's Eprenex, and it's for beef cattle and horses. And it's down their back. If you're going to put it on sheep, you have hair sheep.
Sorry, if I am.
Yeah, do you have hair sheep?
No. Basically, the sheep that we have is the black belly. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with the black belly sheep.
Yeah, black belly Barbados.
Barbados, yeah.
Yeah, I am. We had them in the Hawaii, and I had them in California. Yes, just make sure that when you give Eprenex, that you put it right onto the skin. You know, when you part their fiber, you don't just move it to the side. You have to use both hands and you part their fiber and then put it down on their skin and put it in like 4 or 5 different places.
Okay. What you said, Ivomex?
No, it's Epinex. Epirnex.
Okay. What about as you talk about put it on the skin, I know Betty Call, that's normally given to a cow locally in Dominica for it's more or less for the tick, emblematic and so on. Would that be used or considered too? Right?
Okay, can you say that to me again, please?
Now he said bag home. We normally use Betty Call. That's a liquid, as you said, it's normally poured onto the back of the animals. Basically more for the cattle and so on, for the control of emblematic and so on. So I was asking whether that can be recommended also.
What kind of worm
Call.
are you trying to control with that?
I was referring, we were discussing in terms of the mite. So I was just asking in reference to that, whether it can be used.
So Dr. Ann would probably not know that drug that would be used there.
Okay.
So that's why she's giving you the recommendation for what she knows works.
Do you know what drug he's talking about?
Tell us the name again, Mr. Norman.
Betty Call.
Betty Call. BETICOL.
It's Beta Col Drench.
Beta Col Drench.
Drench, yeah.
Oh, Beta Col.
It's really, really strong, and it's really harsh. It's like you only use a tiny bit. When we put it on our horses, they get neurological problems from it. So it's good for cows, but it's deadly for other animals.
Yeah,
and
normally
it's called Beta Col?
Beta Col Drench, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a liquid that you run down their backs.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But okay, well, you would not know whether the recommended thing you gave us, whether it's available in Dominica. We'll have to check in the drugstore to find out, right? You would not know, or anybody would know whether that's available in Dominica?
Yeah, I'm just looking it up.
Oh, okay.
The medication that she is telling you about, we do not have that in Dominica.
Exactly, yeah, okay.
Yeah, those are some of the things, Dr. Ann, that we're looking to be able to say, hey, the livestock cooperative will have that, right? Because these are, to me, should be standard housing on our platform, right? In our storehouse somewhere. So what we're looking to do, Doc, is upgrade all of the medications that we use normally and come up to speed with the stuff that will probably not like cause neurological problems in an animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you develop a drug list that you need? I mean, I can help you, and then we can go to Valley Vet Supply and we can see if they can honor that drug list so that if any of the members ever call in, they'll already have an ID. You can get an ID and they can say they're from the cooperative, and then they can get those.
I think that would be great.
Yeah,
I think that would be great. We'll get an ID for the Dominica Livestock Cooperative. That would be amazing.
So, Doc, before you go, a recommendation: is it possible that that animal can be called? When I say called, slaughtered and so on, and is the meat or the carcass edible? Let's say nothing as might or would you recommend?
I would find out from the vet what the withdrawal time is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd ask them what the withdrawal time is, and then you can slaughter them and eat them. I always tell people to wait another 20 days. If it's a 30-day or a 40-day withdrawal, I always tell them wait another 20 days.
Okay. Even if
I probably wouldn't eat the liver, because so much is processed through the liver.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go for the liver, but the rest of the meat I would eat.
Okay. Okay, thanks much.
Yeah, but if the vet gave you or told you that to use that drug, I'd find out what the withdrawal time is before.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, he did tell me. I was just, inquiring. Okay. I think he said 30 days, yeah.
Yeah, I'd ask him.
30 days. Okay, then, thanks much. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Norman, welcome. I see Dr. George has a question. We'll take that final question from Dr. George.
Yeah, yes, Doc. Do you know what the active ingredient or the active drug in the Epinex is?
It's an ivermectin base,
Okay.
but I'm not positive of what the other drug is in there. And
So,
I know
so it's a combination.
it's a combination, but you can use it on goats.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommended it to someone here, and 2 people have used it here because now that it's winter time, their goats get to scratching at their neck. They also get scales on their legs. Have you seen that where they get scaly legs?
Not really.
Okay. Because
What exactly is the name of the drug? The one you said? Epinex.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Okay, Doc. We'll take one more question from the Vice President of the Cooperative. Colonel Mills, go for it.
Doc, question. You ever had an animal that just wasn't performing, like just not like progressing or growing the way that it should, and it's like it's just like it just for some reason it just like how would say that, but we normally say witty, like it just not getting to that.
Stunted growth.
Yeah, like stunned. Actually, it just not growing. You ever had that? And reasons why you would think that happening.
Another thing you need to do. How old is this animal?
The animal that's stunned is probably about like a year now.
Okay, one of the things you need to do is check their teeth.
Check their
teeth.
The teeth,
Yeah, their teeth get very sharp. And what happens is they bite the inside of their cheek, and it gets raw, and they don't want to chew. And if they do try and chew, their cud gets stuck in there, and they're always going around trying to get it out, and they'll never gain weight. But it comes from having bad teeth. Other than that, it sounds like it's an animal to cull.
All right.
And if you haven't given it any drugs, you can eat it. If I ever have an animal like that, I cook it in a huge crock, and then I'll feed it to puppies. But I don't feed puppies raw food. They feed them cooked goat meat.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I try their teeth though, for sure.
I'll look into it.
And be very careful. If they're sharp, they're going to cut you.
Okay. I'll be careful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Doc, I have to say one more. This is Tasha and Kim.
No worries.
Well. I'm
not going anywhere.
Good night again. My question, Dr. Ann, have you ever used diatomaceous earth on your goats?
No, not me personally. But if you have a lice and a mite problem, you can take some diatomaceous earth, go to a pharmacy, and ask for organic sulfur. You can mix the two together in like a baby powder shaker, and you can shake that on your goats, and it'll help with lice and mites. The sulfur will, and the diatomaceous earth too. Mix it half and half. But you need to use organic sulfur from a pharmacy.
Okay, thank you. And what about orally? Can I use it orally for worms deworming?
To use what?
Can I use it orally?
You can use it, but it's not going to give you that good of results. I mean,
Oh,
you,
okay,
and you
thank
can try it. It's also going to depend on the type of internal parasite you have. If you have one that's got a really thin skin, the diatomaceous earth is going to break open the skin and the parasites are going to start dying. If they have a thick skin like Homuncus contortus, Couperii, Ostrogii, any of those, Trichostrongyloides, it's not going to work too well. That's why we need to teach you guys how to do fecal analysis.
For sure. For sure. Doc, I mean, just you answering the questions, I'm sitting back here in awe, just listening to the answers, and my mind is absolutely blown. Thank you for your wisdom tonight. And as we wrap up, and thank you for fielding all the questions from our members. We
No
look forward to
problem.
having you in Dominica in person very soon. That way we could spoil you and we could go and have some seminars on AI in Dominica, and then fecal examinations and everything else, and diet and minerals and supplements. We can't wait to talk about all those things. Are there any final words that you'd like to share with our members and our friends and farmers tonight?
Well, I think they have to stay motivated, excited. Just remember that the goat business is going to take perseverance and passion, and just stick with it. No matter what anybody says to you. I had a lot of discouraging people in my lifetime. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I paddle my own canoe and just go for it. Get all the education you can. Call me. Even if you're bummed out, give me a buzz. I got big ears and tight lips. Nobody ever finds out what any of my clients tell me. And I've done them for goats since 1985, Kiko since 1990, and I have no intentions of quitting.
Wow, that's priceless.
Just
Doc,
hang in there and go for it.
that's some great encouragement. Doc, thank you so much for being on tonight. You're a gift to us. Thank you for your love for
Oh,
Dominica. Thank you for your
you're
love
welcome.
for our people. Thank you for just your gentle spirit and how you treat us, and you're patient. And I call you sometimes and we talk so long because I'm asking you all these questions. I want to learn, right? And so
Yes.
thank you for being on tonight. And everybody, I can't wait. Next week we're going to be talking about record keeping, and I hope that all of our members will receive this electronically from us in our private chat that we have, the DLC paid members. And then the rest of you that are not members yet, please join the co-op, because this is what it does. We're able to get world-class speakers like Dr. Ann with so much knowledge, in front of you. And so thank you for taking the time, Dr. Ann. We're excited and we're so grateful that we can build the industry together and do it in a way that separates us from everybody else. So with that said, we love you, we appreciate you, and have a great night, Dr. Ann. And
You're
we'll see
welcome.
all of our members here next Saturday evening, same time, 8 p.m. Dominica time, for our next educational session.
Oh,
All right.
and-
Good night, everybody.
Hey, don't forget to send me the connect for next week, so I can get on and listen.
I look forward-
I'm always up to learning something new.
You got it. I look forward to having you on as well.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you
Bye,
for the
Dr. Ann.
invitation, and it was great to meet all the Dominicans. Take care.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Ann.
you, thank
And
you.
don't
Good
forget
night.
my grouper.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Let not your hearts be troubled.